In this video, we're going to answer a question that I've been getting a lot lately, and that is, do Airbnbs or short-term rentals decrease the value of your property? And in this case, we're talking condos. So do they decrease the value of your condo building? And I think the answer may surprise you. If you've watched any of my past videos, you'll know that I've done quite a few on Airbnb and short-term rentals here in Toronto because I think it's a great way to make supplemental income with your property. If you have not seen those videos and are interested, you can check them all out on my channel. Now, obviously, there's a lot of rules surrounding Airbnb, especially now, but if you do things the right way, it could definitely be worthwhile. That being said, at the end of the day, the most important factor of owning a property is, in my opinion, the long-term appreciation of that unit, especially here in Toronto, where condo values have shown quite a bit of growth over the past 20 years. This appreciation will usually outweigh any type of positive cash flow that you might earn from short-term rentals. Not to say that they can't go hand in hand, but you definitely wouldn't want to compromise one for the other. So that leads us to the question, are buildings that allow short-term rentals negatively impacted by this? And we'll get to that right now. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is fNK&x. I'm a real estate broker here in Toronto. If you get any value at all from this type of content and you haven't already, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Also, if you are thinking about investing here in Toronto or are thinking about starting an Airbnb yourself and are just looking for a little bit of help or guidance, I left all my contact information in the description below and I'd be more than happy to chat. So the short answer to the question, do Airbnbs decrease the value of your property or condo building? I would say I don't think so, but don't just take my word for it. We're gonna go through the top 5 short-term friendly buildings in Toronto right now in terms of number of registered Airbnbs and the percent of units in those buildings that are being rented out short-term. And we're gonna go through their current pricing and how they compare to the rest of the city. That way you can decide for yourself if the values are affected. So let's get right into it right now. Number 1 on our list may surprise a lot of people. It is not ICE condos, although we'll get to that one a little bit later. Number 1 is 300 Front Street West, which was built by Tridel in 2013 and is located at the intersection of Front and John, right next to the Rogers Center. So this building currently has 257 units registered with the city for short-term rental, and in total the building has 683 units. So that's 38% of the building doing or registered for short-term rental. From all the buildings downtown Toronto, this one is by far the most Airbnb heavy. So it's definitely a good one to start with when looking at values and how they compare to the rest of the city. So in terms of price, the current average price per square foot in this condo building is $1,152 per square foot. This ranks as 92 out of 455 condos downtown Toronto. So it's actually in the top 20% of buildings in the city in terms of price, and it's 9.4% more expensive than condos for sale in the surrounding area. I think the reason this building is doing fairly well, regardless of the number of the short-term rentals, is because this condo is in an amazing location, kind of in the center of downtown if you're looking to be in the entertainment district, but also very close to the financial district as well. It's built by Tridel, who probably is one of the best and most recognized developers in the city. And the building is honestly just very, very well managed, and they're equipped to handle the short-term rental. So not only does the short-term rental not negatively impact the values of the building, but the units here do end up actually being quite a bit higher in price than similar units on average. I have a lot of clients who I've helped in the past who are shopping for condos, and a lot of those times we haven't even been able to see units in this building because the price points are always just a little bit higher than the average price point at any given time. Again, this is just one building. It's the most popular in terms of short-term rental, and Airbnb seems to have no impact here. In fact, the building tends to be a little bit more expensive than average. So let's move on. Let's look at some of the others and see how the values of those buildings are doing. So number 2 on our list is 21 Iceboat Terrace and 151 Dan Lackey Way. Those are grouped together and known as Parade Residences 2 in City Place, so around the Lakeshore and Bathurst area. This complex was built by Concord also in 2013. They're not as reputable as Tridel in terms of quality of work, but they do have a lot of work done in the City Place core. These buildings currently have 295 units registered for short-term rentals out of 920 units total. So that's 32% of the condo complex that is doing or registered for Airbnb. In terms of the numbers, the average price of units in this complex hovers around $960 $274 per square foot, which is definitely on the lower end, and it ranks as 289th out of 455 condos in the city. In terms of how it compares to other units for sale in the area, they're about 3.9% less expensive than similar units for sale, which is not much, but this is definitely one that has historically traded for just a tiny bit under average from the start. Thought it would be a good idea to take a look at a few nearby condos in City Place that did not allow short-term rentals, just so we could compare. So we have 4K Spadina, which currently has an average price of about $1,000 per square foot, and 15 Fort York a few blocks down at about $1,038 per square foot. So in this case, this building is one that has not done as well. Next on our list is 101 Peter Street. That's one located right in the heart of the entertainment district at Peter and Adelaide Street West, and was also built about 10 years ago by Center Court. This building currently has 127 units registered for Airbnb out of 429 units total. So that's about 30% of the building. In terms of pricing, the average price of units here is actually on the higher end, with an average price of $1,160 per square foot, which currently ranks as 86th out of 455 condos in the city and is 5.4% more expensive than the surrounding condos in Queen West. This is a building that was well built by a reputable developer, is also managed very well, and has a great location if you want to be in the entertainment district. So again, just like we saw with 300 Front Street West, this building, although is short-term rental friendly, is one that isn't just average but is actually doing very, very well. Next on our list is 55 and 65 Bremner Boulevard, also known as Maple Leaf Square, which is located right in the core downtown Toronto at York and Bremner. This building is a little bit older than the others I've talked about so far, built in 2010 by Lantera Developments, who are a reputable builder in the city. Between these two buildings, there are currently 117 units registered for short-term rental out of 872 units total, so about 13%, which is the lowest of any building I've talked about so far. Price-wise, the average price of units in this complex trade for about $1,150 per square foot, which ranks 93rd out of 455 condos in the city and is 10% more expensive than other surrounding buildings in the core. So like 300 Front and 101 Peter, this is another one that isn't just negatively impacted by Airbnb, but it's actually a building that does well above average. Again, the builder is great, the location is great, right in the heart of the financial district, and then right by Union Station and right next to Scotiabank Arena and the CN Tower. This building is also very well managed. Even before Airbnb became as common as it is now, this building was always host to what they called executive rentals, which were essentially furnished midterm rentals, so terms of less than 1 year, which were perfect for people who needed to be in the city for just a month or two for things like work relocation, for example. So this building has always been equipped to deal with short-term rentals. Last on our list is one you've probably been waiting for. It's one I could not leave off this list because even I was honestly curious about the numbers, and they might actually surprise you. We're talking about 12 and 14 York Street or ICE condos. This building is probably one of the few downtown Toronto that is consistently getting bad coverage or exposure for short-term related issues or just issues in general, and it's known for having a bad rep when it comes to Airbnb. Obviously, when it comes to social media, you can't just take everything you see at face value, and I think the numbers here will actually surprise you because they really did surprise me. So talking price, the average price per square foot for units in this complex was $1,100 per square foot, which ranked 127th out of 455 condos downtown Toronto. So again, we're looking at pretty much a top 25% building here in terms of price, and units in this complex are on average 5.1% more expensive than the surrounding area. In fact, this building is one of the very, very few that has actually seen a positive year-over-year increase this year in 2024 at positive 1.9%. This last year has not been a great one for the Toronto condo market, as inventory levels through the roof and interest rates also remain high. So the fact that this building was able to see a positive appreciation year over year, even though it wasn't much, is pretty good considering a majority of buildings this last year pretty much stayed even or even fell off a tiny bit in terms of value. I think there's a few reasons for this. Number one, this building is in such a good location. I mean, not just for short-term rentals, but just in general. You're pretty much in the core next to the financial district, and then you're also steps away from the entertainment district, and you're also very close to Union Station and have direct path access as well. I know this building has had its fair share of issues like problems with the elevators, garbage chutes, and even some flooding issues in the past, but in 2023, Airbnb actually signed a deal directly with the management of this building where they agreed to take a 15% cut from any short-term rental bookings in the building that management could then use to help pay for building operations and services. I think this has helped kind of restore the reputation of the building. Yes, it's not the greatest news if you are a host doing Airbnb, but it really does benefit all the owners because now management can use this money to fix all these problems as well as properly manage the Airbnbs, which will then help with the value of the condo moving forward. And I think it's already starting to show based on the numbers that we saw. So there it is. There's the top 5 buildings currently that have the most registered Airbnbs, and those are the numbers of those condos. 4 of them continue to do very well, all of them in about the top 25% of condo units in terms of pricing. So based on this data, I would say that whether a condo building does or does not allow short-term rentals doesn't seem to have too much of an impact on their values at all. In fact, like we saw, most of these are actually doing very well above average in their surrounding areas for the most part. Now, I'm not saying it's something you should completely ignore. It's definitely something you should be looking at if you're thinking of buying a condo, the same way you're looking at all the other factors like the location, the builder, the layout. I think the fact that some of these condos do allow short-term rentals has maybe even increased the value because there really is only a very short list of condos downtown Toronto that do allow Airbnb. And I think if they continue to be well managed, they'll also continue to do very well value-wise. I've helped many of my past clients buy into the condo market here in Toronto. So if you are thinking about investing into a property here in the city and are looking for a little bit of help or guidance, even if you're very early in the process and just have a few questions, I'd be more than happy to chat. You can book a call with me through any of my contact information in the description below, and I'd be more than happy to help. Anyways, that's it for now. I'll see you guys on the next one.